It is the day after Christmas. It's the day after Christmas Day. Excuse me, December 26th. We're recording on this on December 25th. So while you're watching NBA basketball, we hope that this is another thing that helps, another Christmas gift. So to start, I just want to say again, Merry Christmas to y'all. Merry Christmas to you, James and Gerald. So as we do with every episode, we start off with a little warm up. This week, we want to do a little warm up because it's been a super long year, and there's certain things that we may have forgotten that happened. We're gonna kind of review some things, do a little refresher, and we're gonna play a game called Two Truths and a Lie. If you don't know how to play Two Truths and a Lie, it is very simple. It is the name of the game. You say two true statements, one lie, and then people try to pick out what is the lie. In this case, it's two statements or two events that happened in 2020 and one that happened in 2019. You have to pick out what event happened in 2019. And to add a little bit of spice into it, it's not just sporting events, it's pop culture events, but they're widely spread pop culture events. I'm not gonna throw something like obscure out there. These are all things that you probably know happened, but you may not remember if they happened in 2019 or 2020. So to start, say three statements. Try to point out which one happened in 2019. Parasite, the movie, won the Academy Award for Best Picture. Kamala Harris ends her campaign to become president, and the Texans blew a 24-point lead in the divisional round of the playoffs.
Ain't fooling nobody with that Texans one.
Yeah, that happened in 2020.
I'm gonna go with Parasite.
I feel like Parasite happened in 2020, and I feel like Kamala announced it in 2019. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened. That's
James
my final answer.
James is right. So the Texans lost to the Chiefs on January 12th, 2020. Parasite won Best Picture on February 9th, 2020. Just as a frame of reference, Academy Award is always a week after the Super Bowl. I always remember that because they always run like a ton of commercials. And then Kamala Harris ended her campaign to become president on December 3rd, 2019.
I got a funny story about that Texans game though. I was out to dinner with my then girlfriend's family, and the Chiefs started the game, so we at the restaurant, Chiefs start the game. I'm like, okay, well, we're the 2 seed, we're gonna see what's going on. So they bust that coverage, so it's 7-0, and then they block the kick, so it's 14-0, and then they score again, it's 21-0, and this happens in like 8 minutes. So I'm eating, and then all of a sudden I stop eating because I'm sick. I'm sick, right? I'm like, oh no. One of my girlfriend's family's people is from Houston. So they up here visiting, and then nobody's paying attention to what's going on because we're trying to pay the check and move on. Somebody's like, oh, what's wrong with him? And then
what's wrong with him?
It's something wrong with James. And he was like, oh yeah, I kid you not. One of her cousins was like, yeah, that's why that motherfucker ain't eating. They down by 24. It wasn't funny at the time, but I was sick. I was like, oh boy.
It's funny how mad we get about sports thing. Like I always tell people, like, it was 2 weeks ago we talked about the Broncos and the Seahawks. I was at the mall with my girlfriend, and I was meeting her godfather for the first time, and they picked us up. She picked us up from the mall, and we get in the car, and he turns on the game, I was like, oh, turn that up. I'm a Broncos fan. It's that and the third. First play of the game, safety. It just went downhill from there.
Yo.
I never watched sporting events after that in like a public place. Like I watched Ohio State win the national championship in my dorm under the covers in a dark room. I was not trying to talk to anybody.
I swear, man. Watching sporting events is crazy. I still remember the day that Pats went down 28-3, bro. But that wasn't like what hit me when I was like, oh shit, we in for a long one, was the pick 6 by Tom Brady, because we were moving downfield, flag. I was like, all right, here we go. Brady about to do Brady. Pick. Brady tries to do a tackle. He just falls that dude's leg. I'm like, oh Lord, no.
They be having you sick. You be like, oh dang, food don't taste right, nothing.
I think I was studying for finals. That was like right before finals. It wasn't finals. It was something that we was like a group of us in there because we had the study room with the TV, and we were in there watching. And I was like, "Oh, the Falcons winning!" Because this was right after Tom Brady had the whole thing with the "Make America Great Again" hat. So black people were happy, and I was in a room full of black people, and they were just like, I could feel the air go out of the room, and I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't tell you to root for the Falcons. I didn't tell you to do all that.
And then the Falcons is like the black team. You know what I'm saying? Like Mike Vick. And, I mean, the Falcons and the Saints, they're like the blackest teams, right?
They brought out, I think they brought out Mike Vick. They brought out 2 Chainz there, T.I.
Yeah.
They brought out everybody.
Right, bruh. Like, black people is, bruh. It's something to it. Like, we talk about Larry Bird and whatever. And it's something to it when the white boys code and racist and you can't do nothing about it. It's like, dang, bro.
I kind of got the same thing.
You to fight the air, bro. You be like.
I kind of got the same thing when the Broncos beat the Panthers.
Yeah.
Cam Newton in that team. That was like the second coming of the Falcons. You had a black quarterback. All that. It was a lot. But going into the second round, 3 statements. A brawl erupts at a Kansas State-Kansas basketball game.
Oh, I got that one.
The Senate moves not to impeach President Donald Trump. Jalen Hurts plays his final college football game.
Okay. So I'm gonna take this one. Jalen Hurts. That was in 2020 because it was the college football playoff. Kansas State, Kansas was in 19 because the nigga threw a chair. Threw a whole chair, bro. Like, what? Like, he was Bobby Knight or something. Anyway, I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't say the N-word. I'm sorry.
I mean, all of our episodes are listed as explicit, so don't.
Oh, okay, so we good.
Nah, and then the other one is 2020. The 2019 was the Kansas State one. I remember that one. I was like, what? What is that?
You ain't gonna hear me arguing with a Kansas person about Kansas history. I gotta go with Kansas State.
See, I live in Missouri, bro. Don't play with me.
I was like, don't rub us in together.
Don't play with me. Don't do me like that.
Well, the score is now 1-0 because you both got it wrong.
Oh no!
Jalen Hurts and the Oklahoma Sooner lost to LSU by $1 billion on December 30th, 2019. The brawl between Kansas State and Kansas happened on January 21st, 2020. And the Senate moved not to impeach Donald Trump on February 5th, 2020.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about that.
Next round, we're doing 4 rounds. Drew Brees breaks Peyton Manning's career touchdown record. Tyson Fury knocks out Deontay Wilder in the 7th round of a heavyweight championship fight. And Nipsey Hussle wins his first Grammy Award.
Drew Brees, that wasn't even Drew Brees' 2020 was a little bit rocky, to be honest.
Yeah.
Why Drew Brees had to say that though?
I find it funny how we had that whole conversation about things that sports teams do to piss us off, and then the Cleveland Indians changed their name.
So you can't even. You gotta say Cleveland baseball team.
Yeah, I need to start doing that. It took me a while to say that about the Washington football team because I got so conditioned to saying that.
I was gonna say, shoot, it worked for Washington. They about to win that division.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into Washington a little bit later. Yeah.
Shoot, man. I'm about to say Kansas City football team. They keep on playing. They go ahead and change that name. To be honest with you, but shoot. Okay, back to the thing. I think. Nipsey Hussle got the award in 2019. I want to say that. Now, the Grammys are in February, aren't they? So maybe he got that in 2020. And then, what were the other two? I'm sorry.
Drew Brees breaking Peyton Manning's touchdown record.
That's in 19.
And Tyson Fury knocking out Deontay Wilder.
That was in 20.
That was in 20 because that was right before COVID. I think it's Brees. Wait, yeah, I go Brees.
You are both right. So Drew Brees broke Peyton Manning's touchdown record on December 16th, 2019. And I remember that because they stopped the entire game for that. Tyson Fury knocked out Deontay Wilder. I always remember this because it happened in Black History Month. February 22nd, 2020. And Nipsey Hussle won his first Grammy Award for Racks in the Middle with Roddy Ricch on January 26th, 2020.
Okay, so the Grammys are not in February. I apologize.
No, they're usually in February.
Oh, they are?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's just a weird date. Just weird date switching around.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair to Drew Brees, a touchdown stops play anyway. So I guess, it's not like when your boy was playing the Chiefs and he had the yards record and then they was getting smashed. He was trying to run a drive.
And also, in offense of, Deontay Wilder, he really was dressed up in the biggest Black History Month thing of all time, got used as a human punching bag for the entire fight, and then wanted to make an excuse about it. So, that's always great for Black History Month, being used as a scapegoat. Yay.
See, now I ain't saying nothing about Deontay Wilder because I can't handle them punches. So I'm gonna hush.
So last round, Clarissa Shields challenges Layla Ali to come out of retirement. The first person develops novel coronavirus symptoms. And Zion Williamson makes his NBA debut.
Ooh,
that's tricky.
Time out. Didn't Clarissa Shields challenge her on a Breakfast Club?
She did in a couple of places. She did it on Twitter, Breakfast Club, wherever she could get it.
Whoever will listen.
For her, I put in a month because I couldn't put down a specific date. I put down a month.
Okay. So I'm gonna say that's 2020, and I'm gonna say Zion went to 2019. But what you think, Gerald?
I think Zion's 2020 because that was around the time Lonzo was starting to kick back into shape. What was the third option?
First person develops novel coronavirus symptoms.
I think that was 2019.
That's right. Yeah, I think you got that one.
Is that both your answers?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's his answer because I wouldn't have gone get it, so he gets the point.
All right. So in a late win, Gerald comes out on top with 2-1.
2-1.
First person developed coronavirus symptoms in Wuhan, China on December 1st, 2019. Zion Williamson made his debut on January 22nd, 2020. And Clarissa Shields challenged Layla Ali to come out of retirement all Black History Month this year.
That makes a lot of sense.
With that said, we're gonna do a year-end wrap-up. But one thing that did happen this year that we did want to touch on briefly was recently the Major League Baseball (MLB) decided that they were going to now acknowledge the Negro Leagues as major. So, to put this into context, a commission met, I believe, in 1969. They came up with at the time, 7 major leagues and included all of their records, all their history into the major leagues. Over time, the Negro Leagues have been acknowledged in some minor ways, like they occasionally wear throwback uniforms. There are Negro League players that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, but they've never been fully integrated into Major League Baseball history. And this now does this. There were a lot of conflicting opinions about this. I just felt like it's a nice gesture, but it feels like it's a little bit too little, too late.
I mean, yeah, it does feel a bit empty and hollow. Like this is something that it feels should have been done a long time ago, but they're kind of doing now. I don't know why they're really doing it now, but yeah, I don't know. There's something about it doesn't feel right. It seems more like a publicity stunt than anything.
I mean, as a baseball fan, as somebody who grew up with baseball, I don't know. I might get a little long-winded on this, but it's definitely something that I take pride in as a Black person who grew up with baseball, who loves baseball. Um, However, I do think there's a level of Black people can validate themselves. Whether that be, we talked about the Grammys with Nipsey Hussle and um, things of that nature in the Academy Awards and stuff like that. Whether that's any person of color, specifically Black people can validate themselves. And I think to say that the major leagues validated the Negro Leagues in that way is a little bit wrong. But to say that the Negro Leagues were included, I think is also wrong. So basically, I really think that it doesn't matter what the uh, white public thinks about these men that were isolated and were kept away, because they did it for themselves. Now, Negro League players, they, that's the definition of like making your own space. Like we talk about that all the time in like this society. Like Black people need to make their own space. Women need to make their own space. Black men need to make their own space. And they were doing that. It may not have looked pretty all the time, but they definitely did that. And I think unless Major League Baseball is gonna acknowledge a wrong that they definitely did to these men, I don't think it really matters. I think in conjunction with the Cleveland baseball team, it's sign of progress, yes, but a sign of progress doesn't mean things have progressed all the way to they need to be. So I feel the same way about the Cleveland baseball team. So I think they need to acknowledge a wrong that has been done before we can move on completely.
I agree with you. I think for me, the biggest thing that I've had an issue with is this idea that they have to be acknowledged.
Mm.
We've known this for a while. Negro Leagues have their own museum. I have a Negro League baseball jersey. Growing up, I had a something handed down from my father. He had a T-shirt with all the Negro League baseball teams and their coaches and their records and this, that, and the third. And like for me growing up, maybe it's because my mom was very big on us knowing Black history. Like I could probably name you. A lot of people don't really truly know how many HBCUs are out here. I think as a kid, like she had me memorize like 50 or 60 names.
Right.
And at the same time, she had me, because I was interested in sports, learning about Josh Gibson, learning about Cool Papa Bell, learning about Satchel Paige, learning about all these guys. And if we're going to truly do them justice, we got to start really, really pushing out certain ideologies, certain barriers for kids in baseball. Like, that's where the real that's where the real work is, making it so that Black kids feel included in baseball. Because I think Major League really fumbled the bag. I forget what year it was where they had the Chicago team out of Chicago in the League World Series, and they had Monet Davis in the League World Series at the same time. And I love the League World Series. That's one of my favorite things to watch every year because I like it. Like if I have a son one day or a daughter one day, I want to take them up there. But I say that just to say, like, the real work, the legacy is including Black people in baseball, because I think to acknowledge Negro Leagues baseball is to also acknowledge that there are a lot of Black people that feel excluded from baseball because of what you did back then, because of the financial barriers that exist today, for a number of different reasons. And we're not talking about Afro-Latinos, we're talking about American Black people, because there's a good number of Afro-Latinos in baseball. There could be more, but there's a decent amount. American Black people, not really there.
And I'll take you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go. That's.
I was gonna say I'll take you one step further. If we're talking about the whole diaspora, how they treat the Afro Latino players, trying to buy them a dime a dozen, you know, when it comes to not giving them draft capital, not giving them draft rights. We could talk about that too. And also, like, for every Kyler Murray, you know, we talk about African Americans. For every Kyler Murray, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of Black kids that feel like they can't make it, you know. So I think, you know, we need to definitely do that work, as you said, to make sure it doesn't just to extend the legacy of the Negro Leagues to today, for sure.
But in just like a comment, is there any like skepticism that this might just be a one and done thing? Like, because we do know that MLB this year haven't had the greatest of press, you know, with how they handle COVID, the World Series ending with a guy of COVID trying to get back on the field, the Cleveland Indians, Cleveland football team fiasco. I want them to follow through with this and give Negro League the actual respect it deserves. But a part of me is kind of thinking in the back of my head, this might just be some thing that they could like, all right, so we added them to the history books and then kind of just forget about it in like a year or two.
I think I have skepticism with any major sports league, because at the end of the day, they are white-run corporations. That's essentially what they are, and they're large corporations, and I forget who said it, but there's like you don't make enough. You can't make that amount of money without having to do something that's morally reprehensible. And it's really hard to do that. And I don't think Major League Baseball got there without cutting corners to an extent. But I do think that they've done certain things, like working with the Jackie Robinson Foundation, like going out and starting these programs. I think it's more about just bringing them to the forefront, because you can't undo the past of the Negro Leagues unless you're about to give all these families a boatload of money that they could have possibly made in the major leagues had it been integrated at that point in time. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what you can do for the Negro League, unfortunately. But you can make it a way so that there's more Black inclusion in the future. Because it's like, for me, like when I kind of compare it to, like, say I went through college and I didn't have the greatest experience at American University. Right. But I don't want any money from American University. Just make it better for the next group of kids. Like, right.
I guess.
So that's where I stand on it. And also going back to the Chicago team with Jackie Robinson Jackie Robinson Little League in Chicago, they got their title stripped or something because one kid out of like 15 didn't live in the right district. When, like, man, like I could tell you the number of Pop Warner teams I played with kids that were too old, too heavy, did not live in the town they said they lived in, and ain't nobody stripped their title. So like we do the selective type of thing. Like they've done that. I forget the kid's name. I believe he was from Cuba. In the Little League World Series, Almonte. I think it was Danny Almonte.
Yep.
He didn't have a birth certificate, or they were unsure about how old he was, so the whole team got stripped. And it's sort of like the NCAA mentality. Like you do certain things, you do one person does something, and everybody's getting screwed. So, but going off of that, we can get into our awards for this year. We're not doing, your typical ESPYs awards, giving out best team, best this. I mean, we'll have best team, but where I want to start is with the first take honors, and this award is honored to the worst hot take in sports. Now, in doing this, I had to come with some criteria because the pool got extremely large. I had to take out hot takes that had to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. I had to take out hot takes that did not have to do with sports. So that eliminated Skip Bayless's comments about Dak Prescott this year. I had to take out certain things that had to do with gender. So I took out Desmond Howard's comments about Sarah Fuller, the Vanderbilt kicker. So
I didn't even know what he said. Oh, wow.
He said her kicking style was like Charles Barkley's golf swing.
He definitely
that's not nice.
So I tried to keep them as close to sports, but this is more of an open category because if you can think of any hot takes, feel free to throw them in there, but these are just suggestions. Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
Ooh.
Coming from Darren Orlovsky on First Take.
That makes sense.
This one is the Caruso-LeBron two-man lineup has been the best two-man lineup in the NBA. You could argue not just this year, but for the last 2 years. That's Nick Wright. LeBron is in my top 10 of all time, but he's number 10. Kobe is not in my top 10. And the last one is Washington football team's Super Bowl window will open in 2021. That the last the Kobe LeBron comment comes from Kenny Smith, and the Washington football team comment comes from Dominique Foxworth. And I'll throw in an honorable mention, which comes from my favorite person, Colin Cowherd, which is for a Power 5 school to get in over a non-Power 5 school to get in over a Power 5 school, that Power 5 school would have to have lost 3 games, and the non-Power 5 school would have to go undefeated. Those are just some things I'm throwing out there. Feel free. I didn't want to include the Jason Whitlock takes, the Marcellus Wiley takes about the Black Lives Matter movement, because I feel like that would go on a tangent and we'd be here all day.
Right. You brought up Nick Wright earlier, and I had to bring this one up, right? So this was early on before Zion got on the court, and Nick Wright was drinking that good old Zion Kool-Aid. So he made a tiers list, obviously, like he does. And Zion Williamson was in the second tier with Luka Doncic, Embiid, Clay, Dame, PG-13, Russ. Nothing big. He was, nothing big. Over Jason Tatum, Pascal Siakam, Jimmy Butler, multiple-time All-Star, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, Donovan Mitchell, C.J. McCollum, Karl Anthony Towns, Chris Middleton, Ben Simmons, and that dude that hit that shot in the finals, Kyrie Irving. Good old Nick Wright.
I need a drink.
Not too much on Nick Wright though. Kansas City legend. Not just my such shit. Shoot. It's hard for me to go against Nick Wright because we have like the same ideologies with Patrick Mahomes and LeBron. But now, the worst hot take I've seen is like Skip Bayless saying Pat Mahomes didn't deserve Super Bowl MVP. Saying Damian Williams was Super Bowl MVP. It's like, I don't know about that one.
He got that long run at the end, man.
I don't know how you watched that game and came up with anything besides Pat was like on one, but that's just me.
My personal top 2, was Dan Orlovsky's continued Carson Wentz defense. Because that's not just one hot take he had about Carson Wentz. He just kept going. He also said, so just to put this into context, he put a ranking out of the best quarterbacks coming into the season. And he said Carson Wentz was 4th. That put him in ahead of a lot of people. So it wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was just the one that they put out, that they pointed to as he said he was better than. But then the other one was Stephen A. Smith saying, another event that I forgot happened this year, Conor McGregor knocking out Donald Cowboy Cerrone in 40 seconds, and he said Cowboy Cerrone quit. No. Conor McGregor punched him in the mouth. That is what happened. It was no quitting. But that's kind of where I went. And then if we're going outside of it, I think that Dak Prescott take was really, really bad. Really, really bad. And then doubled down on it. But getting to the next award, it's the Blackbird Trophy. The best moment, I hate the phrase Black Twitter, but because Black culture drives Twitter as a whole. But as you know, like the logo for Twitter is a bird. So to give it a new thing, I named the Blackbird Trophy. But this is for the best social media moment in sports. And the nominees are The Last Dance, because that spawned I thought I met the criteria. I don't know why I wasn't selected. Isaiah Thomas talking about the 1992 Dream Team. Michael Jordan's And I Took That Personally. The security guard taking his money in a bet. Just a lot of different moments that spawned. The other nominees were Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. That was the costume, and then him getting obviously knocked out. Nate Robinson versus Jake Paul. And then Lemon Peppergate with Lou Williams leaving the bubble to go to a funeral and then stopping at Magic City. I'm personally going with Nate Robinson and Jake Paul just because that is possibly the greatest moment in Twitter. So for me, there's 3 moments in Twitter that stand out. There's the time that Yahoo, I believe, they quoted Donald Trump saying he wants a bigger Navy, but they misspelled and wrote nigger Navy. And then Twitter ran with that. That was hilarious. This is very early on. Ray J calling into the Breakfast Club after he got into a fight with Fabulous and saying, actually, I can't repeat that. But he said, I got 7 Rolls Royces outside, got the money team outside, I got an indoor pool and an outdoor pool. Fabulous is running from me. And when I see him in the street, I'm going to punch him. Those for me are top tier Twitter moments. Jake Paul knocking out Nate Robinson was hilarious because the jokes just ran. Like there was no delay. The second that man got knocked out, everybody in the world knew it. And then everybody was joining. Steph Curry was joining in. Just everybody was joining in. So that for me is the best Twitter moment of 2020.
I gotta go with the shrug though. Oh my goodness, man. That was hilarious with the maintenance guy taking or whatever the usher. What was he doing?
I think he was
taking Michael Jordan's money. Yeah. He hit him with the like it was like what? And then like Michael Jordan was just stewing. Like he was so mad. Hit him with the shrug. You know, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard going against The Last Dance. I mean, even the one you didn't mention with just Michael Jordan cracking up because Gary Payton said I could D Michael Jordan down. Like
in the when they broke down the whole golfing scandal with his golfing friends, and they broke down the guys he was that was hilarious. That and the Ahmad Rashad interview with the glasses on.
The fact that Michael Jordan was like the mark was hilarious. It was like, oh no, we taking Mike's money today. And then, like, he didn't have the wherewithal to be like, oh, man, I'm losing a lot of money today. Like,
Dropping the bucket for him. Man started
I
the
guess so.
NASCAR
I
team
guess so.
just because he felt like it.
Right.
Next award is the Lloyd Christmas Prize. It's named after the character Dumb and Dumber, that Jim Carrey played, who was famously quoted as saying, "So you're saying there's a chance." And this basically lines up all the moments in sports that happened in 2020 that you can only explain because 2020. The Browns are now a playoff team. The Clippers blow another 3-1 lead. Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones Jr. well into their 50s. An emergency goalie being used in an NHL playoff game who used to be a Zamboni driver. And Iowa State shooting up the college football playoff rankings because we don't know. For me, I'm going to take Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones Jr. That is the most 2020 moment of just, I can't explain it. It's just happening and we're watching it.
I mean, yeah, it really is. Like, it's got to be. Like,
Why do we let that happen? Like, I don't. Like, what? I don't have an answer to this question, but I just want to know why we let that happen. Like, what was that? Like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Browns, but the Browns is logical. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, if you have a fourth place schedule for the last 15 years, you're bound to like make the playoffs once. You know what I'm saying? Just like the Raiders, but you have a third and fourth place schedule. I'm just saying, but you should make the playoffs one year. But like 2 50-year-old men just boxing for no reason. Like, who sanctioned that? Like, you got to sanction
it again.
That.
We're going to see it again. I guarantee you, we're going to see Mike Tyson in a ring again.
Hey, but if we never got that fight, we never get Mike Tyson in the post fight. Nobody asked me if I'm okay.
That was hilarious.
See, you dangerous. See, Gerald getting dangerous. He out here making fun of Mike Tyson and
hey, I'm joining in because that was hilarious. And then Roy Jones was saying, "I wear draws. I don't do draws." Going along with the awards, my favorite award, and the one I had the most fun putting together is the Bomani Jones Award, which is named after his infamous phrase, "The game within the game." So we have Tyler Hero versus Kyle Kuzma. That's backstory. Tyler Hero's now dating Katja Elise Henry, I believe her name is, who used to date Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma's now dating a supermodel. So he's doing just fine with his life. Paul George and Doc Rivers, as I've said on this podcast many times before, Paul George left Doc Rivers' daughter to be with an adult dancer. It's the nicest way to put it without the connotation of saying stripper. Or an Instagram model. I don't. The point is, he played for him after cheating on his daughter.
That ain't the game within the game. That's you need your ass beat.
The Golden Tate and Jalen Ramsey situation. Jalen Ramsey has a few children with Golden Tate's sister, and apparently Golden Tate didn't feel like he was treating her respectfully. For context, Jalen Ramsey and the mother of his children are no longer together. Damian Lillard versus the entire Clippers roster. During the first week of the bubble, I believe it was, Dame Lillard missed a few key free throws in a game against the Clippers. Things carried off on the court. Then all of a sudden, Paul George, aforementioned, now I guess wife, because they're engaged. I think they're either married or engaged. And mother of his children jumped in. Then Damian Lillard's sister jumped in, and then everybody was jumping in. And then you get the quote that's saying, "I sent them home. I sent him home last year." That's how you get that quote. And then the last one that we may not have had a chance to talk about because it happened recently, Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. Daniel Dubois was an undefeated fighter, thought to be ascending into that top tier with Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, and all them. And he was supposed to fight Joe Joyce, and he did. And Daniel Dubois, they're at the press conference, and then somehow, some way, Joe Joyce's mother got to ask a question in the press conference. He asked him if he would go home if he was sick because he had sickness before and called off the fight previously. And he said, no, not before I send your son to sleep. Said that to her face. And then there was some pushing and shoving about somebody talking to somebody's mama. Joe Joyce eventually knocked Daniel Dubois out in the ring. But for me, I can't not go with this because I dislike Paul George. It's Paul George and Doc Rivers. Why would you do that? Why would you go play for him? And then you still talking after he left. Why? I don't get it. No. Paul George is a fantastic basketball player, but he makes it really, I thought it was hard to like KD, and I've come around on liking KD. Paul George is making this impossible for me to like him.
Man, I mean, it didn't even end there because after they got kicked out of the finals, you had Lillard and McCollum talking about Cancun on 3. But I mean, one that I'd love personally, just because it melted over, was Harden versus Paul in the what's it called? In the first round, just for that Game 6 stare down with Paul staring Harden right in the face. He's looking to get the rebound. I love that.
I gotta go with Golden Tate though. Dang. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. That speaks for itself.
You got to defend your sister's honor, and I don't even think he won the fight like that.
He didn't.
That's embarrassing. And then
that's one of those you got to talk to your sister. What? Why'd you? What? What are we doing here? You know what I'm saying?
Like, did he really hurt you? Are we being serious?
Bro, what are we doing here? Man?
We get into the final 3 awards. The Herm Edwards Prize, best game. I don't think that really needs explaining. You play to win the game. We have the Browns and the Ravens. You have the Clippers and the Mavericks, game 4. You have Coastal Carolina versus BYU. Nuggets versus Jazz, game 6. Lakers versus Heat, game 5. Bucks versus Heat, game 4. And those all have their own moments. Nuggets Jazz was Donovan Mitchell dropping 44, Jamal Murray dropping 50. Lakers Heat game 5 was the infamous Jimmy Butler leaning over like he just made an entire Thanksgiving meal and he's just super, super tired. And then Bucks Heat is the game where Giannis went out and Chris Middleton looked like Chris Middleton. For me personally, I'm going Clippers Mavericks because that was a moment for me where Luka was like, I'm cemented, I'm here. That was like his signature moment. Like when LeBron hit that deep bank shot against the Magic in the playoff, the Magic or the Wizards, I forget, in the playoffs. Just certain moments like that. Like I feel like it's really good to have those. For Dame, it was I sent him home last year. So.
I mean,
I gotta go. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I gotta go with Coastal Carolina for no other reason than they jumped my dude and then said do something about it. And then BYU couldn't do nothing about it. It was like, oh man, they jumped my dude for no reason, man. Coastal Carolina was some goons out there for no reason.
Coastal was wilding. I'm not gonna hold. I mean, I would put an honorable mention out also. Celtics Raptors game 3. Daniel Tice dunks the ball with 0.8 left. Kyle Lowry throws it over Taco Fall for OG Anunoby at a Butterbeer 3. Turns a 5-game series into a 7-gamer. So, but if I had to choose a game though, it's got to be Heat game 5 because everyone thought that series was done. Like Butler legitimately saved them. I got to give it to it.
Second to last, we have the Cancellation Cup, and this is more looking forward to next year. What event that was canceled last year are you most looking forward to this year? Just some suggestions: the 2021 Olympics, NCAA March of Madness, and just having fans in the stands for the NBA playoffs, regular NBA playoffs.
I go fans just because I want to see how different it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, fans should be nice. Locally, I'm really looking forward to Kansas, Missouri again. That was supposed to happen this year. They signed a 3-year contract and it never happened. So I'm excited for that to happen again. That hasn't happened for years since Mizzou left the Big 12. So
I'm most looking forward to, and this is gonna sound weird, but I'm most looking forward to. And I feel like I talked to James about this, like when they canceled, but the women's tournament last year, there was so much talent in that. Like there was you had an undefeated South Carolina team, the Sabrina Ionescu with Oregon, like you had Baylor, like there was so many teams, and then another year could have easily won a national championship. And you kind of have that again this year. So I'm really looking forward to more so the women's tournament than the men's, which I feel like this is the first time in my life I've said that. Not that I haven't watched women's college basketball before, because I have. But the men's tournament's always been good enough that it'll keep pique my interest when it comes around. But I would also say an honorable mention to an event I mentioned earlier, the Little League World Series. It's fun for me. Like I just enjoy it. I also feel like it's not really a hot take. This is my personal preference. I enjoy watching 6-inning baseball games. If you gave me a 6-inning Major League Baseball game, I understand why they don't do it. But if you gave that to me, I'd watch more baseball during the year.
They did though. All the I think some of the double headers were like 7 innings. Yeah.
But and getting to our last award, bringing things full circle, is the Raptors Trophy, which hot take do you want to see retired that was popular in 2020 that you no longer want to hear in 2021? Just throwing some out there. Kobe Bryant is a better player than LeBron James. We have Mike Tyson could fight professionally again. Just some really bad hot takes. If you have one, just throw it in there. For me, it is personally, I feel like we are coming up on, and we're getting into this a moment to end the episode, but coming up on the tragic 1-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death. And I let Kobe Bryant fans grieve. I let them come out here and say wildly outlandish things. We need to be honest about where Kobe ranks in NBA history, and I'm not going to let y'all sit here and lie about this man, because that's disrespectful to his legacy. This man is he's not outside the top 10, as Kenny Smith put it, but he's not better than LeBron James. And when people say, like, people have been sneaking that in there little by little. Like, I saw Shaq throw it in there, which I kind of understand why Shaq would throw Kobe Bryant in there. But, like, it's LeBron and Michael at this point. Like, we not really talking about Kobe. If we're talking about anybody else, you want to throw in one of the players from the pre-modern era, like a Bill Russell. Okay, I can't really argue with that because we can't really grade them on the same scale. But we not throwing in Kobe in there with LeBron, man. I'm tired of that take.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh Allen, MVP. Time to let that go. Yeah. Time to hope that dies in 2020.
Nah, not the race. Not the rate. Not after what Dominique Foxworth got up there and said. Bills fans are going harder than ever.
Oh man.
You know what? I'm gonna take this time to use it a little personally, because this take was hot in 2020, just like it was hot in 2016 when I thought this shit was done with. Tom Brady being assistant quarterback. Every quarterback plays in the system, and now he's got 30 touchdowns in a different system. We're moving on. He's not assistant quarterback. We're done with it. Goodbye.
He's also like 45.
That is a hard decision. That looked horrible, horrible. Also, the other take that I want to throwing this in there. Can we please stop saying that top to bottom, all of these Power Five conferences week in? Dog, you're not getting beat up playing Georgia Tech in the ACC. I'm sorry, you're not. Like, I'm sorry about it. Like, when we talk about the Power Five conferences, we're talking about a group of 8 teams, really. We're not talking about you, Kansas State. I'm sorry. You have some good years, you have some down years, like every other program. Same thing with TCU, same thing with Washington State. Like, no, I don't want to hear about, oh, it's so hard getting through. Dog, people will say that it's so hard to get through the SEC every year. And then on the same breath say, Ole Miss trash, Vanderbilt's trash, Tennessee's trash. What are we talking about? When we talk about these teams, let's be realistic what we're talking about. We're talking about a group of 5 to 8 teams. We're talking about the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Floridas, the Georgias, those type of schools that are difficult. And sure, the SEC has more of those than other conferences. But we're not going to say it's some kind of bloodbath playing the SEC every single week, because Texas A&M is playing Tennessee this week, and they're favored by 1 billion. So I don't want to harp on that. But I did want to take the last moment to just remember some of the people that we've lost this year. Cliff Robinson, Kobe Bryant, David Stern, and the list goes on of the people that we've lost in sports this year. Ironically, not from the coronavirus, just in a variety of different ways. So I just want to say rest in peace to those people, and keep their memories alive. And then just to end, I guess we can do just wrapping up. Last thing I'll say is thank you for listening to the podcast all year. And I'll end with this. My favorite sports moment of 2020 was probably seeing how on the court, because overall I would say my favorite sports moment of the year was seeing Maya Moore free her now husband from jail. But on the court and having to do with the intermediate of basketball, I would say it's probably seeing the players walk off the court, seeing the Bucks. I know there's kind of like conflicting opinions about how they did it, how they communicated it. But even if it was just for a day, for that to happen, a lot of things have to get in and go the right way. So I'm just happy that they did it, even if it was for just a moment. And looking forward to 2021. I'm really looking forward to seeing Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fight. I hope to be there in the UK. I hope to be there in London if I can get this shot, this vaccine, before I go over there. But I'll pass it off to y'all. Just final moments on the year.
I never thought the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl. I think that was interesting. That was an interesting time in the city, interesting time in Kansas City. Definitely a good night and definitely a good week that we experienced there. My other favorite moment was definitely seeing LeBron, win another title. I think it validated what some of us knew, that he's definitely an all-time great. One of the 2 best players ever, and then that's always good. And yeah, so those are a couple of my favorite moments. And then off the court, it was good to see Jaylen Brown, just how he acts is very inspiring, especially for somebody our age to really keep things in perspective, especially when he has all that money and all the accolades that he does. I know there are other people besides him, but definitely he's definitely somebody I've really looked up to as much as you can from somebody your own age. So
Yeah, Jaylen Brown's widely known as a humanitarian. Uh, Obviously, I agree with the walkout. I think that with the unification they had on that day of just like, look, we know sports, whatever, cool, but like there's serious stuff going on. I really appreciated the just amount of consistency and quickness they got with just making sure that everyone understood the message. From a on-court perspective, I guess from a personal standpoint, the game Jason Tatum had against Clippers, because that was really the game where we were like, I think we got something here. And just like the way he was playing against Kawhi of all people and his defense, like Boston hasn't had a lot to live up to this year. And I think that was one of the moments where we were like, I think we got something to look forward to.
Definitely. And just to shout out Jaylen Brown. Recently he put together a letter with a group of other Celtics players about a bill that's being nearly passing, if it hasn't already, about facial recognition being approved throughout the state of Massachusetts for a variety of different things, which is an issue for a variety of different reasons because of how facial recognition, there's deficiencies in how it's used towards Black people. It's for some, my personal belief is to a degree, unless you're using it for dire circumstances, it's an invasion of privacy to have my facial recognition in a public database. And with the ACLU of Massachusetts, they put together a different letter and sent it off to different politicians. And just throwing something out there that made me laugh this year was John Morant. When they were talking about the things you could put back on the jersey, I think he floated out a meme that said, because the number is 12, back on his jersey, said fuck. And obviously they never approved that, but I thought that was hilarious. But with that being said, thank y'all for an incredible year. It's been really, really fun being able to do this every week and just have fun with it. And next week we'll be showing off our top 10 moments. So we'll revisit conversation about needing a Bosley and a haircut. Gail Benson having a gun on her, just a couple of different good moments, and then we'll come back the following week with the wild card will be set by then. So again, thank you for a great 2020. We made it. Prayers to those that we lost, but thank you to those who made it through with us. With that, peace.